Attention everyone, 7 p.m. Time to call the August 19th, 2024 meeting of the Westfield, Washington Township Plan Commission to order. Staff to start off by noting the presence of a quorum.
Mr. Bunkfist.
Present.
Mr. Horke.
Here.
Mr. Khan.
Present.
Dr. Keen.
Here.
Ms. Carlson. Not here. Mr. McCarty.
Here.
Mr. Mooney.
Here.
Mr. Neal.
Present.
Mr. Woodard is not here.
Alright, we have a quorum, so all's good. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight, all are going to be heard as published. Moving on then to the approval of the minutes of the August 5th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion regarding these minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second. A motion from Victor McCarty, seconded by Mike Neal. Everybody in favor of approving these minutes, please respond with aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? Minutes are approved. If staff can please review the rules of procedure.
General procedure for workshop meetings. The department will introduce the petition stating when the item was last before the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission and petitioner will then discuss the changes made to the ordinance using the issue list as a guide for the discussion. Once the discussion has finished, the department will summarize the final changes that are expected to be made prior to the petition returning for a recommendation. Rules of conduct for workshop meetings. Please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, then we ask that you quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time. You must answer them and please quietly exit the room. We would like to remind those attending virtually to please mute your microphones when not speaking. In this room, the microphone is always on. It's up in the ceiling, so we request that even if you guys want to whisper to each other, it will be picked up clear as day. So just keep that in mind.
Show that Chris Woodard has joined us at 7:02. He is now present.
I think that was it.
You're good, okay. Moving on to our consent agenda. We have one item within it. Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
A motion from Billy Bunkfist and seconded by Victor McCarty to approve the consent agenda. Staff could please call the roll.
Mr. Bunkfist.
Yes.
Mr. Horke.
Yes.
Mr. Khan.
Yes.
Dr. Keen.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Mr. Mooney.
Abstain due to a conflict.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
I will also abstain.
Who made the motion?
The
Mr.
motion was
Bunkfist.
from Mr. Bunkfist and seconded by Victor McCarty.
Thank you.
And it ends up being approved by a 6-0 vote with 2 abstentions. No items of business tonight. Moving on then to our first of 2 workshop items. First item is petition 2405-PUD-12, I-Beach 31 at Grand Park Transit Unit Development. Amendment to the previously approved PUD. Staff can provide any updates, and then we'll hear from the petitioner.
So thank you, President, members of the Plan Commission. I'm just going to give a brief overview about where we're at with this petition and the kind of the last things we saw at the public hearing. So for the record, Ryan Collingwood of the Community Development Department. As I mentioned, this item was the I-Beach 31 at Grand Park PUD Amendment 1 proposal. The proposal is for approximately 4.15 cumulative acres at the northeast corner of East 181st Street and Grand Park Boulevard. So as a refresher, the amendment proposal outlines incorporating additional real estate into the existing I-Beach development. The already existing development encompasses about 3 acres, where the proposed real estate addition encompasses approximately 1.15 acres located between Grand Park Boulevard and the existing I-Beach site. So this item was last before you for a public hearing at the June 3rd APC meeting. Since then, the petitioner has made modifications to the exterior building materials as seen in Exhibit 7. The petitioner has also incorporated a revised landscape plan as well as a building material board as requested back at the public hearing. So Eric Douthit and Katie Connor here representing the petitioner. They are available for any questions, as am I, if you guys have any for staff. Thank you.
Thank you. you have a presentation or?
Yeah, I think that if we go to 7 for me there.
I did not notice.
As you may recall, the biggest issue, I think, from our last meeting was the architectural presentation of the building, especially given the significance of this corner. The way the building was situated, we wanted to make sure that there was, the corner itself was not just parking lot. So what you'll see here is, this is the southern facing portion of the building, with the new entrance compared to the old. These are where the volleyball courts are gonna be. This is the main building. We got indoor, outdoor bathrooms now, specifically located. These are on the north side of the building, so for folks that are playing outdoor volleyball. So this would be the
This is the east.
east.
Or sorry, this is the east, yeah.
The straight elevations maybe for this part.
There we go. So now you got me all, so this is facing north, is that right?
I can't tell with that.
Let me look.
Good job, Ryan.
It has a walkway
That
on
looks
it,
like,
so
that
it's
looks like
certainly
an
like that.
eastern.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's, there is,
Oh, I,
That's east.
so that's east.
That view is from looking at it from the north.
I think this is
Looking at it.
this is the north elevation, I believe.
That's
The
right.
north, yeah.
So when you're
That's the
coming
bathroom
down, when you're coming down Grand Park Boulevard, this is what you're gonna see.
Correct,
looking to your left, yeah.
correct, yeah.
That is, I got to see the bathrooms, got me all confused
Yeah,
there.
it did, yeah.
This is the eastern portion, that's where you'll see the outdoor volleyball courts will be on this side of it. That's, again, that's.
Yeah, the courts will be on the north side
On
of
the
the
nor- yep.
yeah. Mhm.
That's what you'll see from the south,
And then the parking lot south of that.
and the parking lot is on the south side of it. So there's been an entirely new revamp of the material, and if you go to 9 is the material piece for you. There's been an entire revamp of the materials, to try to incorporate in the feedback that we've heard, tried to give some depth, some differences with regards to the elevations, the outdoor stairs, difference of materials, et cetera, to really try to spruce up the outside architecture of what we were trying to get done. That's the big piece with regards to that, and then the landscaping piece of it complies with what we had previously. Nothing too dramatic with it, we just wanted to show where we, and that's on 8, we wanted to show with the parking lot how that was gonna be outlined for you with regards to landscaping. So we're happy to hear any additional feedback you may have. This is significantly different than the last thing that you'd seen. We view it as a significant improvement, but are happy to hear any feedback you've got with regards to architectural design or any of the materials that are being utilized.
Okay, that completes your comments, we'll go ahead and open the floor to commission members to participate. Also note that Stephanie, yep, Miller on the list, but you.
Carlson, yes.
Carlson
I went to the other.
joined us at
location.
7:05.
Thank you.
You're right.
So just for context, as we're looking at this here, the south elevation is here toward the parking lot. You can see my mouse. And then the elevation here, circle that I'm circling, is gonna be toward Grand Park Boulevard, excuse me. So,
The
Just
main
for
entrance is on the southeast corner.
correct. Yeah, as you can see in the landscape plan here, it's the bump out.
Just that it looks beautiful, and like I said before, I'm glad you were able to secure that sliver of property.
It's very attractive.
Commissioners have questions or comments for petitioner or staff? The floor plan with the detail compared to the floor plan that is on the concept plan, those two are distinctly different. I assume that's the plan that will actually govern because it's got the extra set of restrooms and all the additional detail. There's a lot of
Yep.
interior components that we had not actually heard about before or maybe didn't exist before as far as food and beverage. That's
That's exactly right.
pretty substantial
You talking about the concept plan shown in the PUD here?
Yeah, that,
So yeah, so
that
maybe.
building is really not anything we should look at. That's there more for the general site.
Sure. Yeah, so maybe we'll update that before, our recommendation.
Yep.
We'll make
That
sure
would
the
be helpful.
ordinance is fully up to.
It's a good idea, yeah.
I do like the building that's on the detail plan. Much better. The materials, could you better explain them? I'm a little concerned that maybe we've got too much drive-it and metal and not enough natural material.
There isn't a significant amount of natural material given the scope of the building, it's essentially a gymnasium, right? So in order to keep the costs where they were, that's exactly right. You are gonna see the longboard plank, wood-like material on where the restrooms are and the drive-it on a lot of it, but on the larger outside gym area, it is gonna be the traditional the metal pieces that you see here. So I think that's a good observation. Just in the nature of the building, it's where we are, quite frankly.
Is that, sorry,
Jump right in, please.
is that masonry on the, what you'd be using for the stone on the bottom?
This will also be the flat drive-it that goes on, I think, flat on top of it. It's not a natural stone or anything like that.
Okay,
So it's the thin,
the thing that
Yep.
goes on top, okay.
the thin veneer, for lack of a better term, isn't exactly what it is, but that's a good way of thinking about it.
We've had a lot of drive-it discussions in our meetings over the years, and drive-it going to the ground is generally a problem over time. And we've always looked to get something in a natural stone or concrete or something that can come up from the ground, which will be much more friendly to landscaping and watering and whatever else it is that might happen along the ground. And we don't seem to have that on this building.
We can talk to our folks about a methodology, cause if you can go back to cause it's a pretty significant piece of drive-it there. I don't know if they could do stone all the way for this here. What, I bet you that's 6 or 8 feet there, given where the door is, I'm guessing.
At least
Yeah.
8 feet, because those are commercial doors, which
Yep.
are not gonna be 8 or 7, whatever, just in a typical, more residential environment, so.
But
I
from
know we're
here,
talking about something that changes the cost by a pretty good factor, but that's something we have historically never done.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my question wasn't particularly going over that, I was just honestly wondering like how it was gonna be, but I like the look, you know, in general. Does it achieve the same look with the method that you're using?
it does,
Okay.
but it's a care issue is what we're talking about, because it can separate from the inside, and it can take, so I think that's something we probably need to think from a long-term care standpoint.
Water over time is going to cause a problem.
Yeah, it's gonna
It's
cause
not
it to
else but
separate,
one.
yeah.
We went around and around with the rights folks on their similar use facility and managed to get an improvement in the materials there, and I honestly haven't been there in a while. I have a niece that occasionally
Yeah,
does her thing there, and I've looked at the building up close on a few occasions, but I haven't been there in 6 months, probably.
Yeah, that's a fair point to bring up, and one that we need to think about with regards to a care issue. So let us talk to our designer with it, cause we need to come up with something that's gonna be long lasting. We can't have something that's gonna look good for 2 years, then the second the water gets beneath that, separates it out and causes problems.
Yeah, we really
So-
don't wanna see you as an enforcement issue.
I did just get a comment from one of my partners and he said it's not drive-it, it's concrete. It's actually concrete.
Oh.
And he said, is it possible to bring him in the conversation or no?
Yes, yeah, he's on the Teams meeting, Ryan. This is why we've got the smart people on the.
Yeah, he should be able
Mike,
to,
yours.
There you go.
to be able to speak if he's on.
Mike, you there?
I am, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We
Yes, we can.
Excellent, thanks for bringing me in here. Yes, I just wanted to make one point on the cast stone, which will, as you can see in the photo that's currently up, 6 to 8 feet above the ground. That's actually a cast stone product that's made of concrete, it's not the drive-it product. So we use that for 2 reasons. One, to create some differentiation between products and, you know, from an aesthetic standpoint. And then the second reason is for all the reasons outlined on why you don't wanna drive it all the way to the ground level.
Alright, that takes care of the key feature design areas, the one we're looking at and the entrance that's off to the right. But the lower part of that same south elevation, is that also, or that's the metal panel there?
It's
isn't
metal
it?
panel, yep, that's metal.
One other concern that I had, we'll move on unless somebody else wants to talk more about building materials. Or which document it's in, probably in the PUD, but it was also in the staff report. Because of the current use of the site. It's in section 5, parking and loading standards, 5.1 temporary parking areas shall be defined as parking areas. It's got a statement in here that can be used until the earlier of the issuance of the certificate of occupancy or blank 2025. How early can that blank be as far as a date?
When will, I think that's a reasonable question, obviously, we don't want that to be forever. I think by next spring is when that would be intended to be all
Correct.
completed with regards to the parking lot being finished, is that right?
Right, yeah,
Spring,
once we
meaning
get
like
through,
April or?
well, once we, you know, if we get through the city approval part and we get construction documents, that's when we can ultimately start the parking lot. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know, Mike, you can also chime in too. He's still there, I don't know if he's still able. He's been working,
I don't think I have anything to add additional on the parking.
as far as the timing of,
the time of construction of the lot,
Oh, timing of construction, yeah, we would like to move as quickly as possible, so coming out of the September meeting, we'll file for all permits and move into construction as quickly as possible.
would it be reasonable to say May 31st, we'd have that lot completed by Memorial Day?
I would not.
You wouldn't,
Yeah.
with rains and things
Yeah,
like
what
that?
is spring?
Yeah.
I mean, was it actually tied to? Is it
Well, what
tied
it's
to-
actually tied to is right now they've got outdoor uses right now, and we don't have, we needed a temporary lot so we could
Yeah.
use those outdoor parking pieces.
Yeah,
So coming up with a methodology that would allow us to be compliant without establishing a temporary parking use for other projects here in Westfield, that's why we built it into our PUD. So we wanna come up with a reasonable time that's gonna work. Maybe June 30th? I think that'll give us another month to get it
this
in.
conversation came
Personal-
up in the other city.
I don't know, I mean, personal opinion, just make it November 1st, you're probably gonna
Yeah.
get your parking lot in pre-winter
Yeah.
conditions.
You're gonna want it in quicker than
From there.
Then you're-
we do.
We as a city really wanted in sooner, based
Yeah.
on what we're seeing now, this is a great improvement, but it had been agreed upon a long time ago when we thought we were gonna have a different building and the use was already happening.
Yep.
And the parking had been initially conceived as use the natatorium and somehow they get people back and forth, it didn't turn out to be real safe or practical. And there was a date that has long since passed for that lot to have been paved, and it still isn't paved. And Westfield does not like unpaved lots, and then staff might wanna weigh in on this, but parking is expected to be paved in the city, and so we've been using an unpaved lot for a long time, so we need to get a good time that's well before the CO, because the building's probably not gonna be done until, you know, as Omar suggests, probably into late fall of next year.
And that's an apt and appropriate criticism, I don't think there's any question about it, it's coming up with a methodology that works so we can get it in as quickly as possible.
right, yeah,
Um,
that's our goal.
And it's better to do it all at once, but even if it was a phased thing, if you've got construction activities that maybe 30% of the lot is at risk of all of what has to happen,
And I think it will be phased as part of the
Okay.
building,
And-
yeah,
that would be very helpful.
okay.
If
And we
the-
can as soon as we know the timelines.
So we'll work with staff to come up with a methodology that takes that concept in, talk to our construction folks that works. Don't wanna put an artificial deadline that'll cause problems, but at the same time, this needs to be completed.
Right,
We
this is a
all-
workshop meeting, so you don't have to make a solid commitment tonight, but I
Yeah.
wanted to know it's
But I
been a
think,
pretty big issue for me.
and I think it's a reasonable issue and one that we've talked about with staff a lot over the course of it.
I just know there's years where the asphalt plants don't even open up until into April, May, you know?
Right, I mean, and it's weather
So-
dependent in our climate, but who knows what our winter is gonna be like, and it may
Yeah.
be that it is an April 2025 season, but it may be later, but regardless, if the building's not gonna be done till fall, we can't wait that long to have the parking lot in.
Yeah, and we can put together, we've done in on other projects, we've had weather dependent automatic extensions on some road projects and some other things. So I can think through some of that language, where we've had those automatic extensions based on NDOT weather kind of pieces, so nothing that had to come back for, just sort of automatically extends. So I'll get with Ryan and Kevin, we can come up with something that works, using sort of that May 31st kind of deadline, I'm thinking, to give us some time, plus any weather extensions, cause they need it too, to operate safely and effectively, cause the intention is that the outdoor beach volleyball is still gonna be going on over the course of the construction. So that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
Come up with a way to get that phased in, so.
And that was part of my evaluation of this, is that you've got clients and commitments that you no doubt have made, and that you're expecting a full season of that activity.
Yep.
So let's make sure it's right for the people that are coming to use it. So, okay.
Safe and clean. You get plenty of sand in your shoes out there anyway, you don't
Well,
need
that's
mud
probably
too,
true.
so.
Sand is one thing, the rocks that are
That's right.
millions of years from becoming sand is another.
It's good.
I would lastly add, just the seeing the scale of that is so cool, right? And seeing stuff like this happen here is so impressive, so thank you for investing in this community.
Looks pretty. It's taken a while to get there, but it's a pretty cool looking building. I'm pretty happy. It's really neat. So, so we'll work on the parking piece to get that squared away in a way that makes some sense for everybody with regards to some timing. Yeah, we'll go from there. Anything else on the issue list that I missed, Ryan?
No, nope.
Concept plan does show asphalt paths on west and south.
Yeah.
So we'll have that won't be coming along till later, so you'll have asphalt coming twice.
Yep.
In all circumstances probably. So. Alright, any other commissioner comments, questions? I dominated too much? If anybody else wants to jump in, please.
So I'm glad you got that,
Yeah.
that was a detail that I didn't notice.
Yeah, we want feedback now, so.
Yeah, this is our-
That's right.
This is
Please
hopefully
tell
our
us.
last best opportunity to
Yes.
have this kind of a dialogue, so
Yeah.
please.
Eric, did I miss anywhere in the document the parking lot or the parking space count?
56.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
It's properly parked based on what we're getting done.
I think it lists it on the actual parking lot.
It does. It's on the.
Go to that new
So it's
concept
right here.
plan.
157.
Thank you.
57 spot.
Without asking staff, I would have no idea if that's enough or not.
We worked with Ryan to come up and make sure that we were properly parked, 'cause that was a big issue, is did we have enough parking places? Cause we wanted it to be as landscaped as possible, make that corner, that southwest corner as soft as possible. That's what, and everything else that we've got going on there, so.
Yeah, and subsequent DDP process would also catch any overarching UDO or PUD standards.
I just, as we look at projects in this area, you think about overflow parking, and we gotta think through it now, so.
Yep.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Did, your last question, Bob could answer from the previous meeting, whether or not it's pertinent to this body, but it was, right-of-way dedication for forthcoming roundabout. I know that was an issue last
I
time.
believe that's already accommodated, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is a roundabout
It is.
anticipated there, I'm pretty certain that the GIS, which I usually have in front of me during these meetings, and they didn't open it up tonight.
Understood.
Pretty certain that that's already.
Yeah, cause that was part of the Wheeler taking when that all went
Yeah.
down.
I
The one
think
on
these-
Grand Park Boulevard
Mhm.
that has accidents every week,
Yes.
yeah,
That is
it's
sketchy.
the most dangerous, yeah, it's terrible. They end up in our lot every week, cars, kids, adults, grandparents, everybody that you love.
186 or 181st?
Ambulances,
It's
it's bad,
180.
it really needs to be a
It's the
four-way
same
stop
building
right now,
that,
or light.
The new
until-
apartments
schools
are on?
are.
Oh, 180.
It's the same buildings, the same roads, the lines.
On GIS, I still see a hard corner.
Yeah, it's a 90-degree.
There's no roundabout yet, it's just a,
No, where-
it's a two-way.
Yeah.
It's a two-way and it's not symmetrical. And so nobody thinks that the other person's stopping and there's T-bones there.
Oh my gosh,
Every
that's so
week.
awful.
And actually,
Yeah.
this is part of the Wheeler community? Is this? this site was
Sure.
not.
Can you pull up the aerial for this intersection one last
Take it to the
time?
meeting.
Or GIS.
Alright, the GIS still shows a 90-degree
Hey,
corner there,
does still-
so something needs to be worked out
That's
with
it.
Public Works.
Is it
If
in
it,
the?
if it needs to be dedicated, it will certainly be dedicated as what's gonna come.
Yeah, I mean,
It is.
Yeah.
I just
will
don't know
be
With
when
lot.
without
Be
knowing off the top of my head.
Yeah.
when this is platted, the proper right-of-way dedication will occur, it'll be, if it doesn't exist, it will be,
That's right.
included in the plat.
Yeah, our-
And just because of talking about the roundabout, I know just from prior conversations that we as a city were hoping to get MPO dollars to be able to build both a roundabout there and at John Dipple Boulevard at the same time, but we were unsuccessful in that. So this intersection is a priority, get that done, and then doing one there. It'll just, how we can formulate the funding for it.
This area is in a TIF district, isn't it? This is all TIF, isn't it? Is it Wheeler TIF?
This is in the TIF. It's weird right now, but yes, is the short answer. If you want the long answer, I can give it to you.
Yeah, sometime, but don't have to do that.
It's actually in
If
two
we can
TIFs.
get
It is?
a
Yes.
four-way until then, that would be great, so that we don't have any fatalities.
Yeah, it needs a
It's
four-way
that whole
stop.
parcel.
Until the roundabout
I
goes
stop
in.
at it accident, I stop at it
secured
the
the-
wrong,
So
right?
this is
Like-
in the Wheeler TIF and this is in a different TIF, so when it gets replatted, it'll all get replatted to the Wheeler stuff.
So I'll send another message.
Intersection right now.
I mean,
That 181 and Grand.
I'm just looking, I'm surprised it wasn't, cause that was,
East to west.
wasn't part of the taking, that's.
East to west is a stop sign, north to south is not.
you
Correct.
can see the ace in the.
I'm trying to
in the-
wonder why it's, why the pathway is even created in a kind of curvature.
So it's
It
part
gives
of the,
me anxiety when I look at it.
okay. Well,
Then
don't look
that's
at it then.
spinning.
It's part of, it's part of the plat that will be
Yeah,
dedicated.
that's interesting, Ryan.
It's not done, we know it needs to be done, it's on the to-do list and it'll happen when the appropriate time comes by.
Yeah,
So,
we'll go through the process if needed, but it's a separate zoning
alright, any
conversation.
other commissioner comments? Dr. King, you haven't? No, okay, I think everybody else has weighed in some manner, so does staff have a recap of our notes for this discussion
Yeah.
that we can hear?
I've got two kind of to-do items. One is to swap out the exhibit and the PUD regarding, that shows the new floor plan or building layout on the concept plan. And then update here, section 5.1, to fill it in with a date, acknowledging paving of the parking may need to be phased earlier than C of O for the building. It had been mentioned, May 31st may be a starting point for that, plus built-in weather delays.
I got some language for that.
Or however else that gets worked out, but those are the two outstanding things that I caught. Yep.
Okay with me.
My list is the same.
Alright, everybody good?
Thank you guys. Really like the process.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See you again in the future, hopefully for a good recommendation.
Send an email, right?
Thank you.
Item number 2 tonight is another workshop discussion for petition 2407-PUD-16, the courtyards of Cielo Ranch Planned Unit Development. Lauren and then the petitioner.
Thank you. For the record, Lauren Gillingham with the Community Development Department. Item before you tonight, as Bob said, is the workshop discussion for the proposed courtyards of Cielo Ranch PUD. This proposes to rezone Cielo Ranch, 36-acre equestrian facility for the development of an 80-lot, low-maintenance community. This community will be age restricted, so 55 plus required. The site is located east of East 161st and Oak Ridge Road. And the entrance is proposed to line up with the Viking Meadows entrance right there. Since this is, let's see. And it will also connect into the stub street at Ridgewood. There's a stub street in Ridgewood that was developed in 1976. This is proposed to continue Ridgewood Avenue, which is a requirement of our subdivision control ordinance. Proposed ordinance includes site plan, architectural elevations, requiring substantial compliance. Since this was last before you, the applicant has made some minor edits, which is reflected in the red line. This is really just providing clarification It adds a prohibited use that is otherwise permitted in the underlying zoning ordinance. It adds some language on courtyard fencing and roof materials and provide amenities. And it also increases the minimum lot area for the majority of lots, save, I believe, 8 are permitted to be 1,400 square feet. So a neighborhood meeting was held on June 19th at the courtyards of Carmel Clubhouse. There was a really good turnout from both Ridgewood and Viking Meadows residents. And this petition was also heard at the July 1st APC meeting where it had a public hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions, as is the applicant. Not sure if you had a presentation prepared.
I can, if you like.
It is up to you.
I can go through a couple of the things that Lauren did not mention. They are fairly minor, but we've got a couple of discussion points too we'd like to present as well.
Please.
Items that, I can't remember if you hit this one, but we did incorporate an additional exhibit that illustrates the courtyard concept. I mean, nowhere in the ordinance does it. I mean, everybody knows that's what we're building, but that it is at least referenced and illustratively identified in the PUD ordinance now. We added a little bit of language that allows the use of metal roof architectural accents. There are some instances where dormers and other, yeah, you can see one right there.
Yeah. So this is a metal roof, whereby everything else is shingles.
And so if, I don't think the staff would rigidly interpret the ordinance without that provision, but this makes it clear we intend to do that on some of the models. There was kind of I'm not sure where it came from. It must have come from me, but there was a limitation on the fence height for pickleball. And I think the city's UDO adequately addresses that, the pickleball fence height. And so we just nixed that language out of them. Somebody check.
Yeah.
We removed language that, there was some language in it, it was a little bit confusing. Although the city's UDO does not prohibit the location of buffer yards within building lots, we're not doing that, and there were provisions in the ordinance that allowed that specifically, even though I think it's probably allowed anyway. But we removed that from the PUD ordinance, we are not doing that. And then there was a provision in the ordinance that provided for the possible location of mechanical equipment within a buffer yard, and that won't be necessary. So we struck that language out of the PUD as well. We added language, I think it was a discussion point at the Plan Commission hearing about what amenities are provided within the clubhouse facility itself. And they're significant, but they're specifically listed in the ordinance now. It includes a fitness area, a community room, a fairly decent sized community room. Great, if you've been to the courtyards clubhouse in either Carmel or Westfield, you could see a perfect euchre tournament kind of place. But it has a fitness area, community room, kitchen, restrooms. Porch areas, both screened in and covered, and a covered patio with outdoor fireplace area. We've also incorporated a community garden that was not present, not to try to, they wanted to do this anyway. It's really popular with their residents, in their Carmel project. It's just been a big hit, so we incorporated it. We've also communicated with the city engineer. And originally, as we outlined for you, we were hoping that we might be able to stop our stub street to the east about 30 feet shy, which is the buffer width, about 30 feet shy of the property line, so we could just continue the buffer treatment along that side. And that's not the city engineer's preference. He'd like us to extend the stub to the property line. We've been in communication with our owners to the east who are here this evening. And we are putting together an exhibit to show what we've kind of talked about in concept, but essentially to prevent or to discourage access, we intend to put a horse fence, the same horse fence that we're using within the project along this property line, at least as far as we can. We get into some floodplain down here. And then also, and just do some plantings towards the end of that, the stub, just to provide a little bit of a screen there. So we'll be circling back with the neighbors to discuss that. We just met with them late last week and just don't have the exhibit completed yet. And then we worked with our neighbor to the west here. One comment for us was, is there anything we can do since we have to build this 8-foot asphalt path with, just inside the right of way? It's kind of close to the front of his elevation of his home. And so what we discussed with the neighbor is just essentially taking our fence that we will be installing and wrapping it around to basically prevent people from just going straight through their front yard, and then adding some plantings there as well on the other side of the fence. And so we will be circling back with them too. I can't remember, are we preparing an exhibit for that? Yeah. Okay. And then, let's see. And any comments on those things? We just got 2 discussion topics we'd like to raise with you, but those are the updates. Any questions about updates?
Is there a standard detail on the Stub Street plan, like in the detailed development plans, or?
There will
I'm
be.
sorry, yeah.
There will be when we get to that point, but I mean, we know what the city's cross-section is.
Yeah.
Construction standards.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but this is all designed to city specs.
Yeah.
The only odd thing that we were asked to do by the city engineer, this stops about 23 feet shy of the property line, and so he wants us to start with their cross-section and then mushroom it out to a conventional cross-section, so. So we've had that conversation with the engineer.
Are there grill stations in the imminent areas?
I don't know that.
Grill stations? Yes, we do have one grill station outside our
Okay.
clubhouse.
That's nice.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move on so there's 2 discussion items, and this is something that has really, since the public hearing, I mean, we were aware of it before, but it's a bigger issue than I think that we probably realized, and I think the folks with their feet on the street that are with EPCON are dealing with a lot of questions from neighbors, because if you'll look at the concept plan here, we have these red dots on these lots and some of the lots over here. And we've discussed this with our neighbor to the east already, but we agree, if you can see this tiny little note over here, it says no rear doors on units or rear courtyard gates permitted. And it is easy for EPCON to accommodate, and that's just done to be sensitive to the next door neighbors, of course. But the committing to no doors on the rear of those units can be accommodated. That doesn't create an issue. What has created the issue is by not having gates on the back of the courtyards, there are any number of things that could happen that would require one to get to their backyard. And not the least of which, I just threw down a couple of examples, but there could be something that, bounces over or flies over for whatever the fence. There could be debris, branches, just to inspect for damage or hail damage or any kind of maintenance to the rear of the home. The area behind the homes is all commonly maintained, as in like mowed and treated, the grass and everything, but you know, if a branch falls in the backyard and the mower doesn't come until spring, I mean, somebody might wanna get out there and do something about it. So it would be convenient for those owners, so they don't have to walk up essentially all the way down the block and around through other people's backyards to be able to get to their backyard. EPCON still has the same restrictions on that, on the areas behind the homes. You can't build any buildings. There's no activities that are permitted
Is there
in those
another
areas.
exhibit, Matt, that maybe shows? I don't know, maybe not in this set.
I think the PUD itself shows the courtyard.
And so here's how, see, you had,
sorry.
that's all right. So just, not every one of the homes is gonna like butt up to this dashed line. But that dashed line, let's just assume that's the back of the courtyard. This area back here, the buffer is outside of the yards. But to access that little yellow strip, if you were this person, you'd have to either walk all the way down there through a floodplain and up this way, either through other people's backyards or through this treed area, or you'd have to like come all the way down here somehow. And
Why is that,
get
why is that
well,
property line, why not make that common area?
well, it could be. It could be, but it's because you don't know where the rear of the homes are gonna be. You just know that easement.
So that's just a setback line, the dash line
It
is a
is.
setback line?
It's just a building pad. It just
Yeah.
identifies. And so we offered that up. I mean, that was not requested of us, but we have shared it with folks and we understand, but we don't wanna look like we're going back on our word, but what we are getting from the town-run folks, the courtyards of Westfield, is that creates a big inconvenience.
I'm sorry, can you describe to me, I wish there was like a photo or something that we could,
Here.
it's hard for me to
Here's
understand.
D, Exhibit D.
Yeah, I'm not understanding.
You're good,
Sorry.
thanks for saying something.
You say exhibit D?
It's Exhibit D.
Oh, in the
P-
PUD.
Yeah.
See.
There
No,
it
oh,
is.
so they're all connected.
So front of the house. And so this area right here, this is still in the lot. The buffer yard is in this white area. So these are like the rear platted lots of each of these homes. And it's all commonly maintained and it's restricted. It can't be used for sheds or anything like that. It's just people want to be able to get to their backyard so they can inspect it.
Yeah, and what's the reasoning that the neighbors don't want you to
They
have that?
didn't say that. We just, it was our experience with another project in Westfield. And so we accommodated the neighbors by putting that restriction in there,
Oh,
not knowing what a problem it was gonna be.
gotcha.
And so part of that problem is gonna go, we're probably gonna be revisiting that with you at some point in the near future, just because long-term it's gonna be tough to enforce too, because people will probably end up getting frustrated and putting in their own gates or something.
Well,
Are you saying those gates would be like where the trees are? Is that?
The gates would be like in this fence, just to provide access back into that area.
Those rear doors that you took out, they would also then just come out of the back side of the
No,
property?
there would be no.
No, I know, but where the other houses have them, where would they have been if they run these?
They would be on this elevation, on the rear elevation.
And is that something also that you heard from the neighbors, or is that also in the same experience you have with the gates?
That's just not been a frustration that's been voiced.
Okay.
So
Does it matter which one you get to appease being able to access it?
I'm not understanding.
Like if you're saying the back door is, you can access obviously the common space right from the back door,
If there was one.
but you're also asking for the gate to access the back, right? Something doesn't matter which one you get to access the back.
Oh, you mean a door versus a
Yeah.
gate?
Yeah.
Like what's preferred?
Yeah.
Yeah, gate off the courtyard.
I think it makes sense to have a gate because if
Yep.
a fire, you need a
Yeah.
place to escape and you're over 55.
I was
I was just
thinking
gonna mention that, that's,
Think about
That's the other point,
Just
for
to-
safety reasons, having 2 points of
Yeah,
access out of your,
branches don't bother
out
me.
of your
if it's fine.
courtyard.
Well, for me, and if there's a threat of something, you know, I wouldn't
You
want my
never know.
kids trapped and could only go one way, like,
Or your
that to
grandmother.
me is a problem.
If you had kids, you probably wouldn't be in here, but.
Yeah, but
Still,
You don't want
my
grandma-
grandkids.
Visiting
could visit
grandkids,
me.
yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
grandkids and whatnot, so, but yeah, good point.
What was the height of the fence again?
It's up to 6 feet.
Privacy fence.
And we added some detail in here that explains the fencing options too. They use 6-foot vinyl fences that are low maintenance for places where privacy is needed or desired. And then in a lot of the other places, it's a wrought iron kind of appearance.
Lauren, of the public comments we've got and through the public meetings and discussions, like, how big of an issue was having that gate there?
I have not heard the gate come up.
No one has brought it up, but it may be because we did. That's my point.
Right, right, cause you added that before we even had the opportunity for public comment. That was in the very first submittal.
So we can circle back, I mean, one of the neighbors we're working with already, of course, but we could probably circle back with those neighbors and explain. I think if they're provided with the assurance that how EPCON restricts the use of that area back there. I mean, I think in many ways, I'd almost prefer the access to be there, so if there is stuff that blew in the wind and ended up against a fence line that you can get to
I think the
it.
bigger concern for me, I mean, not that debris and things aren't important, but I think public safety is paramount here.
Yeah.
And something has to come, you have to be able to get out of the house. I brought this up, it wasn't specific to that, but if you remember our public hearing, I brought up because of the way these are designed, how to me, it seemed like, and if TAC signed off, I'm not worried if the fire department, fire marshal also was fine. But it just seemed like this design limited being out. I mentioned that before.
Yep, I remember.
And I feel like what's proposed now is too restrictive from a public safety. Now, that's not my job as a plan commissioner, but I would certainly want something. If it's not a rear door, then it's a gate, or vice versa. One of the two.
I agree.
We're technically allowed to let them change this without having to go back to public hearing or anything since it was.
They haven't even
passed.
asked.
Already
They
done.
haven't even asked. That
Yeah,
hasn't
since
been
it is
asked.
what, I mean, it's a gate, right, like it's not a big deal.
Gate or the,
Or the door, something
I
from a
think
public
someone
safety
back up.
matter.
Yeah, I think the reasoning is sound.
And I think reasonable people on the other side of this property would understand a public safety issue more than anything.
This, and just to digress for a moment, the interesting part about the other Westfield project at 151st in town, one of the neighbors that we instituted this measure to protect them, we acquired their real estate and it's been merged into the project, and so now we have requirements that require the same treatment inside of our own project, so that's why we're gonna probably be coming back.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't.
Nor do I.
You get plenty of buffer there.
Yeah, well, there is,
Yeah.
and
We have a bunch of old people, right? They're not gonna be running in the
Right.
neighborhood.
they're active seniors.
Wow, yeah.
Well, and I mean,
Don't write
it
that down
begs the
for
question,
Jim
like, I
Watson.
understand you're new
Do
to
not
the
write that
neighborhood,
down.
but it's not like you're next to true estates, right? You have neighbors with other demising points that aren't subjected to the same restriction, it's just
Yeah.
part of being a neighbor.
There, and there's a significant, I mean, that's pretty well treed through there. Well, and then, so if we're done with that one, the last one was just a bit of an oversight. In our PUD, some of the language that we added, it specifically says, sorry. And this is one of the red lines.
Redlined out or redlined?
Redlined in. We were asked just to provide more detail on our on the number of floor plans. We did that previously, but it didn't seem like an issue, so we didn't have the language in there. But we were asked to add some language, and I inserted the developer proposes 8 different floor plans, and it really should say up to 8. There are 2 of the floor plans that can only be built if they have walkout basements, and we're not sure we're gonna be able to do them here. So if it's okay with you, we would like it, instead of saying the developer proposes 8 different floor plans with several elevation options, which actually is 7, either 7 different elevations for each floor plan. We'd like to say up to 8. And Epcon's never had any issues with diversity in its.
But up to 8 could also mean, I'll just give you 1.
Yeah, can there be a minimum?
What's the minimum?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
sure.
I mean,
Minimum 4.
4,
Between 4 and 8.
how about 4?
Yeah.
Minimum 4 and up to.
It'll be 6 at least, but 4,
So let's call it 6.
4 to 8.
What happens if you were to change, if you were to decide to come up with a new floor plan mid-project, it just doesn't happen? Like, would you
It
have to
just doesn't
resubmit?
happen,
Yeah.
it takes way too long to redesign. Sometimes we are able to refresh our designs, but the rollout of that is
Too much of a
is too much in the making.
Yeah, even if there were only 6 models instead of 8, with all the different elevation possibilities, there's 42 different elevation options and there's only 80 lots. So,
Probably not a lot of redundancy though.
What is the redundancy clause in it? I didn't see it. Is it like is there one?
Time and on.
yeah, you're testing me.
There wasn't a
There might not be
typical little
one.
diagram like we see in a
Yeah,
lot
like
of
the one
PUDs
line.
that show if you have X, then you have to.
Yeah, we've
So
never
the
had to do
whole box.
one.
Build a house next to each other.
Yeah,
Go
we
back
have
to
our
the
own
same
standards,
go.
but I don't know that.
You know, if that's an issue, we can incorporate something, but
I would assume
we've
the process prevents it, but there's no documentation, like sharing the process. We're not asking for anything you don't do, just
Right,
share with
yeah.
us what you do
Okay,
to prevent it.
yeah.
you want the sharing to happen in this document?
I'll actually defer to the boss.
I missed the question. What was that?
The anti-monotony language that they use, do you just wanna know what the rules they follow are, or do you want it in?
Just share what the rules are. I believe there might be something in the UDO in our architectural standards that covers it. I'll have to refresh that section, but this isn't really something that we've had a problem with Epcon in the past.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, if it is in the UDO, then you don't have to reinvent anything. You can just assure us that you'll be compliant with the anti-monotony in the UDO and we'll be good.
There you go. That's all I have.
Matt, what the section
Yes,
that,
it's, yeah, what do you say, 7-1A?
Double check. I've got a question.
Jump right in then.
I just wanna make sure I understand this right. We were, this was in pre-APC on Wednesday, and I think maybe the way I read it now makes more sense. Section 5.2, under permitted uses, the additional language of educational institution with dormitory accommodations. As this written, that is prohibited?
Yes, I misread it during pre-APC.
Me too.
I meant to
Okay.
let you know that,
All
yes.
right.
I texted Bob and I forgot to text
That's
you
okay,
about it.
that's okay. I just wanted to make sure, cause when I first read it, I was like, wait a minute.
I was trying to figure out how to do that with the fewest number of words.
You did great. We
Yeah.
just, you did fine. It was a me problem. So, okay, thank you.
Is there short-term rental allowances in here, or how's that all dealt with nowadays?
We do not have any restrictions on that, but I can't say that it's ever happened,
Yeah,
either.
I'm just curious, cause did we actually
We've
How
talked
did
about
that
that
go?
in these meetings, but generally we also say that's really more of a council thing to try to
Yeah.
get that into the.
Yeah, and I mean,
Ordinance.
we've done it through developer commitments already this year and other projects. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really thought of it in regards to this with already having the 55+ restriction. And when you look at the short-term rentals, you know, the Airbnbs and so forth, I mean, I would think that the 55+ would already supersede this, and that isn't necessarily what would be targeted here, cause you know, you get the Grand Park traffic and so forth in other neighborhoods, and that wouldn't be permitted here already. Would I be wrong, or?
Unless they're older than 55, I guess, but.
As soon as your residence had 8 baseball players, then you probably hear about it.
Oh,
Right,
Absolutely,
yeah.
They hear about everything.
Cause again,
I'm just curious, I know
think
that
it
our
was-
neighborhood it was kind of a process of our neighborhood having to go through it after the fact.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other neighborhoods did, So I'm just curious to know, I mean, it seems like an ounce of.
I think we talked about this at BZA where essentially we can push it forward that we want it. And then they can push it to the developer and say we want it in your HOA covenants, but the city as an acting body can't actually enforce that. And so we have to put it on the developers to make a commitment.
Yeah.
It's gotta be in the HOA covenants, yeah. Speaking of rentals though, just out of curiosity, you talk about short-term rentals, have you really had long-term rentals in your 55+ communities?
Not at all, not at all. We just don't, it's probably a function of, again, the age restrictions, number one, and then number two are price points. And it's just hard to make sense of that in the rental market, but yeah, we don't have that at all.
Where is it documented that this is actually the legally age restricted community? It's not in the PUD, but there is another document that you're.
It is not in the PUD, but I think, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we're working on it with the mayor in terms of a development agreement to age restrict the project. So that Westfield could TIF the project.
Okay, so that is happening. I just wanted to make sure it was either done somewhere that I hadn't seen or learned where it is, so now that's where it is, and we're good. You had talked about looking through whatever options you could investigate to try to figure out how to get these residents a safe passage to the Monon.
Yes.
How you doing on that?
Yeah, well, we're not there, and we probably won't be there before we're done with the zoning process. But that doesn't affect EPCON's interest in the property. We have been in contact with the folks that own, is the aerial convenient? That might work. Yeah. So.
You want the actual.
This is okay. So the property line here comes right down to here, and there's enough room to get a trail up here and this way. We don't have everything worked out with this group, but the thing that might frustrate this effort, there is a lot of stuff in the ground between here and the Monon that may prevent a connection there. And so we're still mapping our way through, but there's like a sanitary sewer lift station. I'm sure there's layers of citizens easements back there. And there's some floodplain issues that are the initial reaction of our people that know about those things was like, you don't wanna do that, but we do wanna do that. We want a connection. So, and just, I think, Lauren, you know this, there is an easement, existing in South Oak, just north of this detention pond over here. But it's just such an inconvenient, out of the way for, to access the Monon that it's just not very appealing. That's not our preference. There's a 15, oh my gosh, yeah, there's a 15-foot wide easement, oh, I'm sorry, that goes right across here. And arguably, it might go across this whole property because there were some shenanigans that were done by the then owner that I'm not even sure if he granted a big easement and then he made it a little one. But the city was a party to the easement, and I don't think you can do that without the city's permission, so. Anyway, to be continued, but we're not gonna give up.
Technical term.
It's a legal term.
Another point could be in the future, if there is in fact a roundabout that goes in, was discussed last time, that could provide for a safe crossing on the south side of our property over 161st Street to connect to the existing walkways here. So roundabout happens here, safe crossings across to here to connect to the existing pathway here.
So, I think John Nail is on top of this and understands the situation. But That's the best update I have for you right now, but it's probably, based on the progress and how long it's taken us, I don't think it's gonna get done before we're hopefully done with zoning.
Alright, any other questions, comments from fellow plan commissioners for staff or petitioner? And if there are none, Mr. Todd can tell us what he typed.
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Did you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Did the spell check finish it for you?
AI?
Alright,
Oh, that's what I did.
in order of discussion here, so outstanding items, work with the neighbor to the east regarding landscaping or fencing treatment at the stub road. Same comment, work with neighbor to the southwest regarding landscaping, fencing treatment at the trail stub. This is also a technical term, the lots with the red dots.
That's a nice rhyme.
Modify the language to allow a gate on the fence. And that's on the plan.
Yeah, it's only referenced on the concept plan, and I would just suggest deleting the prohibition about the fence.
Okay.
And so the rest would remain.
But the red dot with the no rear doors will remain on the concept.
Modify language of section 7.1A to say up to, say a minimum of 4 up to 8 different floor plans. And then if the anti-monotony provisions that you would normally work under do not satisfy UDO standards, add that anti-monotony section into your order. Did I miss anything in terms of outstanding?
And we'll follow up independently on the age restriction item.
Oh, yeah.
Does that sound good to everybody? Alright. You got nothing else, then
All right, thank you.
we're good.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate you. In the future for a recommendation.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And if anybody would like a tour that hasn't already opted to do it, we'd love to sell you a house. So-
Yeah, I was just gonna say. It'll come with a sales pitch.
That's one of those little people running through the neighborhood.
I don't know how
Still
many
got some years on us.
PC members will qualify.
See you in.
Couple of us.
Yeah, I'm not gonna guess anyone.
Can't ask
here.
At least not on the record.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Let's wait till the adjournment.
but it might be a very small number. They are nice.
Here we
numbers.
are, 20 minutes.
They're lovely.
So, alright, that completes the items that we had for workshop discussion. There are 2 items continued to a future meeting, both of which I expect will be at our September workshop. Is that looking like the case for Westfield Yard and Finley Creek?
Leads up.
Okay. Taking us then to reports and comments. Plan commission members, anything to report on that you should all know about? If not, can our city council liaison enlighten us on what city council has been doing?
Yes, sir.
Particularly anything that affects us.
Last week, we had a presentation by Assistant Police Chief Scott Jordan regarding golf cart use in Westfield and how that's gonna be explored. Under items of business, we had the Osborne Trails PUD amendment, the West Fork project, that was voted on, and it was denied in a tight vote 4-3. And then under new business, we had ordinance 2428, annexing real estate into the city. That is the Winterberg development that we saw earlier in the year at the south west corner of 193rd and Casey Road. Resolution 24132 regarding the GPSC agreement that was just introduced, and that's being worked on currently. And then resolution 24-29 establishing a merit system / commission for WPD. And that was it.
GPSC is Grant for Sports and Entertainment.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just wondering what that alphabet soup is all about. We didn't completely put Board of Zoning Appeals out of business. There was a
Yeah,
meeting
your
in
busiest
between
one yet.
back then and now.
A big meeting. Just
Yeah.
one question for West Park Whiskey, since that was voted down by the council, do they have to wait now 6 months, a year before
year.
they can resubmit?
Yep, a year. If it's the exact same project, they'll have to wait a year. Otherwise, if they come up with something that's already permitted on the property, then that's TBD, but.
Wait, as the petitioner can't ask again, or that parcel can't be asked about again for 6 months?
Both, right?
I don't think so.
Isn't there a thing about substantially different projects or something? It's like a year.
It's not substantially different, it's a whole year from one
I
application
mean,
to
your
the
question
next.
is they can't just bequeath the development plan to like another developer and say, go do it. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of asking.
cause it can't be that exact same project regardless of whatever.
It's project specific, not parcel specific.
Okay.
This is legal counsel on the phone listening. This is
Thank
Beth
you.
Copeland.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Beth.
It's project specific, so I'm not sure who spoke up, but whoever said that if they present something that is substantially different, that's what you look for, that's what the Court of Appeals has assessed. If they present something that's substantially different, then we have to entertain it. But the exact same project has to wait a year.
Beth, is there a 6-month waiting period with the substantially different project, or am I thinking of a different place?
Forgive me, so that's dictated by our rules of procedure, and forgive me for not having ours specifically memorized.
Yeah, I'm flipping
Whatever
through and I
our-
can't find it.
Yeah, whatever, that's not dictated by state code, so whatever we have decided and prescribed in our rules of procedure is what we follow.
So we wouldn't see them for a minimum of 6 months
It is
anyway,
6, yeah, there's a 6-month cool down period.
regardless.
And
Yeah,
then,
everybody definitely needs to cool down.
well,
Is that
if it's
complete?
withdrawn, there's a cool down period.
Yeah.
Don't listen to me.
If it's withdrawn.
Yeah, if they would have withdrawn before the vote,
Yeah.
then there's a different, it's a shorter cooldown period than the 12 months, but because of a denial.
Is that all based on just not consuming like public resources? Is that what the
That's partially, I think, and just so we don't have people submitting petition after petition for the same thing that the city has already said, no, we don't want this.
Yeah. Passing a project from developer to developer.
yeah.
Okay, does that complete the, for MBZA?
Yep, we're on BZA.
So, my question was answered, so I'll go
Yeah.
to the
Oh,
BZA.
sorry with you, yeah.
We approved a variance for Community Health Network to have tilt-up concrete on part of their facility that will be up on North Point area. I'm not sure when that's going, but it's actually the tilt-up concrete, as they explained it to us. I think the Aldi store, we did an approval on that too for tilt-up. It's actually more expensive than what the standards call for, but it still has to go through zoning. So we approved that. They wanted another one up on 206th Street, and a landscape contractor just wanted to put up a small house. There's probably some plants there, but it's not gonna be a heavy use type of thing. It's just, they store all their plants and materials off-site someplace else, so it was just a place to show potential customers, you know, a meeting place or whatever. Next Gear Auto Sales, which is by 132 by Rodabush. They wanted to extend a variance for 5 more years. They were willing to only go 3. And that's probably a good thing because the auto sales store on 32 is not the highest and best use for that particular area. So they were very, very good about that. So that was approved. Benji's Ace Hardware, which is gonna be on the west side of Spring Mill at 161st and that new
Spring Mill
strip
Station.
mall for whatever last, like of a term is. They wanna have an outdoor area for their landscaping. It's very similar to what we approved a while back for the Ace Hardware up on 32. Bob Sobsick, or not Bob. Dave Sobsick. The building next to City Hall, there on Penn Street,
wants to move a client in there who has a exercise studio, whatever. There's, that's a historic area of Westfield along Penn Street. Some of the people on the Historic Society wanted some modifications made. Dave's willing to meet with them. I'm not sure he's done that yet. But he's willing to meet with them to try to make it conform more to the historical image of that particular area. So that was withdrawn pending discussion. And then on Oak Ridge Road, just north of 161st Street, there's one lot that's been there forever. It doesn't conform to anything. Person wants to build a house there, needed to have a variance because they're gonna occupy the upstairs part, the downstairs part. It's really gonna be a house, a lot of his antique autos. He's a car buff, and so that was approved. And the last item up, what's the name of the business up there? Porter, just off, there's a subdivision back there that's been up on 31. Porter's, there's a little subdivision back there, it's been there since the early 70s. Naturally, it conforms with nothing that's standards now, so somebody wants to do it. Put in a yard setback, have a yard setback to establish an accessory building there, and we approve that. So, that was it, but no pools and still to deal with.
Can you imagine if you had pool, if he would have been there till
Still be there.
10:30?
Might still be meeting.
Might still be meeting.
Yeah.
Plant committee, we did not meet, so nothing to report on. Sorry. Bring us some plants.
Maybe next month.
Yeah, maybe. Community Development Department, anything of note that you can help us with?
Just since, I believe since we last met, we have promoted Weston Rogers to senior planner. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight to get to hear this publicly, but just want to congratulate him on that and let you all know that he's moving on up. So next time you see him, give him
Pat on the back.
pat on the back. So that's it from us.
Awesome.
Great.
Down to that last item, adjournment.
Motion
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Wow. So we have a motion from Victor McCarty.
Like all the news.
About 4 or 5 seconds.
Woodard.
Give it to Woodard.
Everybody in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstaining from adjourning? We're adjourned at 8:12 p.m.
PNC meeting.